Hey folks, David Stewart here. So what is the future of Marvel Comics, the entity known as the Marvel Comics Group that actually publishes all of the comic books? Well, here's a suggestion that has been told to me and that I have told to other people and gotten a pretty good response on. In fact, the other week when I was on Thinking Critical's channel with a number of other pros, they seemed to think that this might be a strong possibility for the future of Marvel. And that is that Marvel Comics as a publishing entity will cease to exist as it is and will instead become some sort of holding company that manages licensing arrangements for the intellectual properties that are currently published by Marvel Comics or have been published in the past. And I'd like to explain what I mean by that. What I mean is, rather than hiring artists and writers to work on a book and then publishing it, printing it, sending it off to stores, what they'll do instead is they will license that to another company. So for some percentage of royalties or for some fee, you will get the license to make Thor comics. And then all of the risk will be on that other company. They'll be the ones printing the books. They'll be the ones shipping them out. They'll be the ones hiring artists and writers in order to fulfill the goal there. And the reason that this might come about is that Marvel Comics as a group hasn't done well in quite a long time. In fact, when it was bought out by Disney, my understanding is that it was on the edge of bankruptcy. It was about to go bust or have to face a major reorganization. And since then, its prospects really haven't improved, especially when you compare to how it did in the 80s and even in the 90s. It's doing quite poorly. If the company continues to lose money, that's not that big a deal actually for Disney. Right, they can continue to bankroll it basically into infinity. If it's losing a few $1 million a year, that's not a whole lot compared to the billions that Disney happens to make every year. However, you run into a problem when you're dealing with the fiduciary responsibility of the entire corporate group known as Disney or Buena Vista, whichever name you want to apply to it, which is that you have a responsibility to the shareholders to make a good return on their investment. You have a responsibility to make money. And if you are losing money intentionally or you are not changing business practices to create profitability, that is a problem. So at some point, the rope may run out. They may fall out the bottom of the rope and down into the abyss. They just can't continue to lose any more money, at which point the parent company will convert Marvel Comics into some sort of other entity. So the guess that I'm making, and I've had other people tell to me, which seems pretty interesting, and I'd like to get your feedback on it or your impressions, is that it'll be converted into a group that manages licensing for other firms to produce the comic books. Now, this could be a good thing for those of you who have not been happy with Marvel's output over the years, mainly because if a company is going to take on the risk of producing a run of comic books, then they want to be profitable. Even if Marvel Comics right now is not operating in a way where they care deeply about how much money they're going to make, other companies which exist solely for profit will, which means they're going to make a different set of decisions about trying to reach a wider market and trying to get their comics in front of more eyes and get more people to buy them. They're going to have a different approach to how they make money. However, that still is not the case where they are going to have, if you're licensing out to a separate firm to produce the comics, that you're going to have the same care for the characters that an original artist would have for characters that he created or an original writer would have for characters that he created. You still are running within the large corporate machine that's going to view these characters, these long-running series, as assets to which they are going to recover profit from. So if you're an outside firm and you license the X-Men trademark in order to produce X-Men comics and the characters that go with them, and you produce a run of X-Men comics and pay the Marvel Comics Group royalties for it, you still haven't created the X-Men. And you are not going to treat the X-Men in a way where you are looking at them as an artist does. An artist tends to think of his creations like children. In other words, he thinks very long-term about them, and not just about their profitability, but about their integrity from an artistic perspective. So this change might produce less SJW kind of stories, but I don't think it would produce long-term a change in the way that these established brands are approached in terms of artistic merit. There might be a slight improvement in artistic merit because you just are trying to maximize profits, and having a good product is part of maximizing profits. Whereas right now, there doesn't seem to be a big focus on having a product that at least is popular or even really good on a certain level, depending on how harsh you want to be with that. But it's not going to be one that's going to return that to artists. Only artists are really going to treat their creation in a way that is reverent towards it. And fans that have a reverence towards the product, while they may see an improvement in story quality if it gets shipped out to another firm to produce on behalf of Marvel, I still think you're going to be wanting a little bit for that kind of love of the creation that existed prior to the current trend within the Marvel Comics group. And this may also happen to DC, by the way. So I've had a couple of artists say, that's probably going to be the destiny of DC, is that it'll become a holding company because it can't produce its own comics and maintain profitability. It'll instead be a company that holds the intellectual properties and licenses them out in different ways. Licenses them for products like t-shirts, licenses them for stories, books, whatever that's going to be. So no more managing the actual creative output in the company itself. That will be mostly farmed out in order to avoid the risk. And any company that's going to take on that licensing is going to do so with a large amount of possible risk in that endeavor. So thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you want to see and hear in the future. And I'll see you guys next time.